You're fired! How dare you interrupt my gala with your ridiculous peasant superstitions?" Sarah's voice, sharp and cold, cut through the elegant chatter. Maya, the humble maid, stood heartbroken, her eyes pleading as she tried to explain the strange symptoms she'd noticed in the triplets. "These are my children, not yours to worry about. Get out." Humiliated, Maya was escorted out of the grand mansion, but she knew in her heart something was gravely wrong with those innocent girls, and she wouldn't rest until they were safe. A man in a tailored suit standing near a discreet black car watched the entire exchange with a furrowed brow. But before we see, let me know where you're watching from and what time it is. Now subscribe to the channel and let's get into the full story. "Miss Maya, my arm has purple spots. Are they magic spots?" 5-year-old Zoe Richardson asked, her small finger pointing to the dark bruises scattered across her pale skin. Maya Thompson froze, her heart beating faster as she examined the unusual marks on the little girl's arm. This wasn't normal. Not at all. "No, sweetie. They're not magic," Maya replied carefully. "Does it hurt when I touch them?" "A little bit," Zoe admitted, wincing slightly. Maya's alarm grew, but she kept her face calm. "Let's get you dressed for breakfast. I'll look at those spots more later, okay?" The morning had started like any other in the Richardson mansion in Bel Air, Los Angeles. Maya woke at 5:30, showered in her small bathroom attached to her quarters, and prepared for another day caring for the triplets. At 32 years old, Maya had worked as the live-in maid for the Richardson family for 2 years now. The job wasn't what she had planned for herself, but after dropping out of nursing school to care for her sick mother, Maya needed stable work to pay off medical debts. Maya moved quietly through the massive house toward the triplets' bedroom. Despite being identical, Zoe, Chloe, and Phoebe Richardson had their own distinct personalities that Maya had come to know intimately. As their parents remained distant figures in their young lives, Maya had become the stable, loving presence they counted on. "Good morning, sunshine girls," Maya called softly as she opened their bedroom door. The room was decorated in expensive pink and white furniture with 3 identical beds arranged perfectly. "Miss Maya!" Phoebe, the most energetic of the 3, jumped out of bed immediately. "I dreamed about butterflies." Chloe, usually the first to wake, remained curled under her blankets. That was unusual. "Chloe, honey?" "Time to wake up," Maya said, sitting gently on the edge of her bed. Chloe opened her eyes slowly. "I'm tired, Miss Maya." Maya placed a hand on Chloe's forehead. No fever, but the little girl looked exhausted despite 12 hours of sleep. "You can rest a bit longer while I help your sisters get ready," Maya offered. While helping Zoe dress, Maya discovered the bruises that worried her. After finishing with Zoe and Phoebe, she returned to Chloe, who still moved slowly, without her usual enthusiasm. "Do you feel sick, Chloe?" Maya asked. "My tummy feels funny. Not hurt funny, just funny," Chloe explained in 5-year-old logic. Maya helped all 3 girls with their morning routine, noting how Chloe barely touched her breakfast. As they sat at the kitchen table, Richard Richardson entered, his attention focused on his phone. "Richard, the girls made drawings for you yesterday," Maya said, hoping to redirect his attention to his daughters. "That's nice," he answered absently. "Tell Victoria I'll be in Tokyo until Thursday." The Barrett deal is more complicated than expected. He grabbed a travel mug of coffee and left without looking at the triplets. Maya saw disappointment on the girls' faces but quickly distracted them. "Let's hang your art in your room so Daddy can see it when he gets back." 20 minutes later, Victoria Richardson appeared in the kitchen, dressed in designer clothes despite the early hour. "The girls' juice should be in glass cups, not plastic," Victoria said instead of greeting anyone, "and Zoe's hair is crooked." "Fix it before school." Maya nodded. "Mrs. Richardson, I wanted to mention something about... I have a charity committee meeting in 30 minutes. Whatever it is can wait," Victoria interrupted, grabbing a bottled water from the refrigerator. "Remember the girls have ballet at 4. Make sure they wear the new leotards, not the old ones. Victoria breezed out without kissing her daughters goodbye. After dropping the girls at preschool, Maya returned to the mansion and began researching online. The bruises on Zoe combined with Chloe's unusual fatigue worried her. While cleaning the girls' bathroom that afternoon, she found another concerning sign, a yellowish tinge in the water after Phoebe had brushed her teeth. That evening during bath time, Maya confirmed her fear. The whites of Phoebe's eyes had a slight yellow color. "Phoebe, honey, do your eyes feel funny? Do they hurt?" Maya asked while washing the little girl's hair. "Nope," Phoebe answered, splashing happily. "Can we read the princess book tonight?" "Of course we can," Maya promised, her worry growing. After putting the triplets to bed, Maya sat in her room and started a notebook, documenting each symptom she had observed. Bruising on Zoe, fatigue in Chloe, yellowing eyes in Phoebe. All three were showing different but equally concerning signs. The next day, during a play date with neighborhood children, Maya noticed all three girls tiring much faster than their friends. While the other children ran and played for hours, the triplets sat down after just 30 minutes, unusual for previously energetic 5-year-olds. During her evening break, Maya tried calling her friend Jessica, a doctor at Cedars-Sinai Medical Center. "Hello, Jessica. It's Maya. I need some medical advice about—" "What are you doing?" Victoria appeared in the doorway of Maya's room. Maya quickly ended the call. "Just checking in with a friend." "The girls need their evening snack. That's more important than personal calls during work hours," Victoria said coldly. For 2 weeks, Maya carefully tracked the triplets' symptoms, growing increasingly concerned. The bruises on Zoe had multiplied. Chloe napped every afternoon now, something she had never done before. Phoebe's eyes were definitely yellower. Finally, Maya gathered her courage and approached Victoria with her notes. "Mrs. Richardson, I've noticed some concerning symptoms in the girls. Unusual bruising, extreme fatigue, and a yellowing in their eyes. I think they should see a doctor soon." Victoria looked up from her phone with a cold stare. "They're just playing too rough. Stop looking for problems where there aren't any." "But these symptoms could indicate something serious. I used to study nursing and—" "You're a maid, Maya, not a doctor," Victoria cut her off sharply. "If you were a nurse, you wouldn't be working here." "The girls are fine," Maya persisted. "I really think they need blood tests. These symptoms together could mean—" "Enough!" Victoria snapped. "Your job is to clean and help with the children, not diagnose them. Focus on preparing for the charity gala tomorrow night. I need you to help the triplets get ready for their appearance during my speech." That night, Maya stood in the doorway of the triplets' bedroom, watching them sleep. Their breathing seemed normal, but their faces looked paler than they should. Tomorrow's charity gala would host hundreds of wealthy donors raising money for children's health causes. The irony wasn't lost on Maya. In her room, Maya added the day's observations to her growing journal of symptoms. Beside her bed, an invitation to the Richardson Charitable Foundation annual gala sat on her nightstand. Maya stared at it, a plan forming in her mind. If Victoria wouldn't listen in private, perhaps she would have to make her concerns public. The thought terrified her, but as she looked at the photos of the triplets she had taken that day, showing clear evidence of their declining health, she knew she couldn't stay silent much longer. Maya closed her journal and turned off the light. Tomorrow would change everything, though she didn't yet know how dramatically. Maya woke up early on the morning of the gala, her mind still troubled by the triplets' worsening health. She tucked her symptom journal inside her uniform pocket, a constant reminder of what was at stake. "Miss Maya, will there be princesses at the party tonight?" Phoebe asked as Maya helped her into the lavender dress Victoria had selected. "There will be many important people there," Maya replied, carefully brushing Phoebe's hair. "But you three will be the most special girls in the room." Maya noticed how Phoebe's dress hung loosely on her small frame. The little girl had lost weight in the past 2 weeks. In the next room, Zoe was struggling to stand still while Maya pinned her matching dress. "My legs feel tired, Miss Maya," Zoe complained. "You can sit down for a minute, sweetheart," Maya said, concerned by the new bruises visible on Zoe's calves. Chloe was the most worrying. Sitting quietly on her bed, her normally rosy cheeks were pale, almost gray. "Does your tummy still feel funny?" Maya asked, placing a gentle hand on Chloe's forehead. "It hurts now," Chloe whispered. "Can I stay in bed instead of going to the party?" Maya knelt beside her. "Let me talk to your mommy about that." Downstairs, the Richardson mansion was transforming for the gala. Florists arranged elaborate centerpieces while caterers set up serving stations in the grand ballroom. The annual Richardson Charitable Foundation event was the highlight of the social season, with tickets costing $5,000 each. Maya found Victoria in the main hall, directing staff about placement of the ice sculpture. "Mrs. Richardson, Chloe isn't feeling well. She's very pale and says her stomach hurts. I think she should rest tonight." Victoria barely glanced at Maya. "Nonsense. She's just nervous about being in front of people. All 3 girls need to be on stage during my speech about children's health initiatives. The photographer from Vanity Fair is doing a feature." "But she really doesn't look well." "That's enough, Maya. Get the girls ready. They go on stage at 8:15 exactly." Victoria walked away, phone already back in hand. By 6 o'clock, guests began arriving. Maya watched from the kitchen as famous actors, business leaders, and politicians entered the mansion. Richard stood near the entrance, shaking hands and making introductions, though Maya noticed he checked his phone between each greeting. "The triplets need to come downstairs now," Victoria's assistant informed Maya. "Mrs. Richardson wants them to meet the mayor before his early departure." Maya brought the girls down, watching Chloe carefully. The little girl moved slowly, holding Maya's hand tightly. In the grand foyer, Victoria proudly presented her daughters to the mayor of Los Angeles and his wife. "Aren't they precious in their matching dresses?" "They'll be starting kindergarten at Westfield Academy this fall," Victoria said, positioning the girls for maximum effect. "They're absolutely adorable," the mayor's wife replied, bending down. "Hello, little ones. Are you enjoying the party?" Zoe and Phoebe nodded politely as they'd been taught. Chloe remained silent, leaning against Maya's leg. "Chloe, darling, answer Mrs. Daniels," Victoria prompted with a tight smile. "I don't feel good," Chloe whispered. Victoria's smile never faltered. "She's just shy. Children can be so unpredictable at this age." As the evening progressed, Maya kept the triplets in a quiet corner of the library, saving their energy for the speech. Chloe lay on a small couch, her breathing shallow. "My spots hurt," Zoe said, scratching at the bruises on her arms. "Try not to touch them, sweetie," Maya said, making a mental note in her growing list of symptoms. At 8 o'clock, Victoria's assistant appeared. "Time to bring them backstage. Mrs. Richardson begins her speech in 15 minutes. Maya helped the girls to the ballroom where over 300 guests were seated at elegant tables. A stage had been set up at one end, with a podium bearing the Richardson Foundation logo. Backstage, Victoria was reviewing her notes. "Position them to my right when I call them up," she instructed Maya. "Make sure their dresses are straight and they're smiling." "Mrs. Richardson, Chloe really isn't well. She can barely stand," Maya tried once more. "She'll be fine for 5 minutes," Victoria said dismissively. "This is important, Maya. Don't create problems." Richard appeared briefly backstage. "Everything set?" he asked, barely looking at the girls. "Perfect timing, Richard." "You need to introduce me," Victoria said, adjusting his tie. "The speech is only 7 minutes, then we'll bring the girls out for the photo opportunity." Richard nodded, then walked onto the stage to welcome the guests. The spotlights illuminated his confident stance as he spoke about the Foundation's work. "And now, the true heart behind our Foundation's mission, my wife, Victoria Richardson." Applause filled the ballroom as Victoria took the stage, the picture of elegance in her designer gown. "Thank you all for your generous support of our mission to help children in need," Victoria began. "Tonight, We celebrate raising over $2 million for children's health initiatives across the country." Maya stood in the wings with the triplets, watching Victoria speak passionately about sick children while her own daughters showed clear signs of illness just feet away. The irony made Maya's chest tighten. "Chloe's really hot, Miss Maya," Phoebe whispered, touching her sister's arm. Maya felt Chloe's forehead. The little girl was burning with fever now, her skin clammy. On stage, Victoria continued, "No child should suffer without proper medical care. That's why our foundation has funded 3 new pediatric wings in hospitals serving underprivileged communities. And now, I'd like to introduce the inspiration behind everything we do, my beautiful daughters, Zoe, Chloe, and Phoebe." Maya led the 3 girls onto the stage, supporting Chloe, who could barely walk. Under the bright lights, Maya could see how alarmingly gray Chloe's skin had become. Her yellow-tinged eyes were glassy and unfocused. Victoria put her arms around the triplets for the cameras, her smile never wavering. "These precious girls remind us every day why children's health matters." Maya saw Chloe sway slightly. Without thinking about consequences, Maya stepped forward, driven by pure concern. "Excuse me," Maya said, approaching the podium. The room fell silent as she gently took the microphone. "I'm sorry to interrupt, but these children need medical attention right now. Especially Chloe. She has a fever and shows signs that need immediate doctor's care." Hundreds of eyes turned to Maya. Victoria's smile froze, her eyes hardening with rage. "This is Chloe's nanny being overly cautious," Victoria said with a tight laugh, trying to take back the microphone. "Everything is fine." "It's not fine," Maya said firmly. "They have unexplained bruising, fatigue, and yellowing eyes. These are serious symptoms." Whispers spread through the crowd. Security guards moved toward the stage. Victoria grabbed Maya's arm, pulling her away from the microphone. "Get off my stage right now!" she hissed. As security reached them, Victoria maintained her public smile while whispering, "You're fired. Get out of my house immediately." Maya looked desperately toward Richard, who stood frozen at the side of the stage. Their eyes met briefly. She saw conflict there, but he remained silent. "Please," Maya pleaded quietly to him as security escorted her away. "The girls need medical help. Look at Chloe. Really look at her." Richard glanced at his daughter, concern briefly crossing his face, but Victoria was already smoothing over the interruption with the guests. "Thank you all for your understanding. Now who's ready for dessert and dancing?" Victoria announced as Maya was led away. 30 minutes later, Maya had packed her few belongings into 2 suitcases. No one came to her room, not even to check if she was stealing anything. The girls were nowhere to be seen, likely already in bed after their public appearance. "You have 15 more minutes to leave the property," the head of security informed her at her door. Maya nodded, tears streaming down her face. She slipped her symptom journal and the photos of the triplets' bruises into her purse. At least she had documentation. The taxi dropped her off at her small apartment in East Los Angeles shortly after 10 o'clock. The space felt foreign after so long living at the Richardson estate. Dust covered the few pieces of furniture she owned. Maya collapsed onto her old mattress, physically and emotionally drained. She had lost her job, her home, and most painfully, she had lost access to 3 little girls who needed her. Her phone buzzed with a text notification. Unknown number. "I'm Dr. Jessica Martinez. You called about some sick children? We need to talk." Maya stared at her phone screen, her hands shaking as she read the message from Dr. Jessica Martinez. She immediately called the number. "Jessica? It's Maya. Thank you for texting me." "Maya, I got worried when our call was cut off," Jessica replied. "You mentioned something about sick children?" "Yes. Can we meet tomorrow? It's urgent. I have a break at 10 in the morning. There's a diner called Sunnyside near Cedar-Sinai. Meet me there." Maya barely slept that night. Images of Chloe's gray face kept appearing in her mind. By morning, dark circles had formed under her eyes. She arrived at the diner 20 minutes early, clutching her journal of symptoms. Sunnyside Diner was small but clean, with red vinyl booths and the smell of coffee in the air. Maya chose a quiet corner table and waited. Dr. Jessica Martinez arrived exactly at 10, still wearing her hospital ID badge. Tall, with dark hair pulled into a practical ponytail, Jessica had been Maya's classmate in nursing school before Maya had to drop out. "You look terrible," Jessica said, sliding into the booth. "I haven't slept," Maya admitted. "I'm worried sick about these children." "Tell me everything," Jessica said, ordering coffee for both of them. Maya opened her journal. "They're 5-year-old identical triplets. Over the past 2 weeks, I've noticed bruising on their skin, extreme fatigue, and yellowing in their eyes. Last night, one of them had a fever and could barely stand." Jessica frowned. "Show me the photos you mentioned in your text." Maya passed her phone across the table. Jessica swiped through the images of Zoe's bruises, Phoebe's yellowing eyes, and Chloe's pale gray complexion. "This is concerning," Jessica said, her medical training evident in her focused examination of the images. "These symptoms together suggest a liver problem. The yellowing is jaundice. It happens when the liver isn't working properly." "What could cause that in all 3 girls?" Jessica set down her coffee. "There are several possibilities, but given they're identical triplets, I'm thinking of genetic conditions. Have you heard of Wilson's disease?" "No," Maya said, leaning forward. Jessica pulled out her tablet and showed Maya a medical website. "It's a rare genetic disorder where copper builds up in the liver, brain, and other organs. It matches these symptoms: the bruising from decreased clotting factors, the fatigue from liver dysfunction, and the jaundice." "Is it treatable?" Maya asked, her voice tight. "Yes, if caught early, but untreated, it can cause liver failure." Jessica looked directly at Maya. "These children need proper medical testing as soon as possible." Maya's eyes filled with tears. "I was fired last night for trying to get them help. Their mother won't listen to me." "Fired? What happened?" Maya explained the events of the charity gala, ending with her humiliating dismissal. "That's horrible," Jessica said. "But we need to focus on getting those girls medical attention. Who's their pediatrician?" "Dr. Wilson on Wilshire Boulevard, but Victoria, their mother, controls all appointments." Jessica thought for a moment. "I can't directly intervene without a referral. Patient privacy laws prevent me from calling their doctor based on your observations alone." "So there's nothing we can do?" Maya asked, desperation in her voice. "I didn't say that," Jessica replied. "You need to build a case so strong that they can't ignore it. Research everything about Wilson's disease and similar conditions. Document all the symptoms you observed with dates and details. And then what? Find a way to get that information to the father. He seemed concerned, right?" Maya nodded. "Just for a moment, before Victoria took control again." After breakfast, Maya went to the Los Angeles Public Library. She spent hours researching liver disorders in children, taking careful notes. The more she read about Wilson's disease, the more convinced she became that this might be what was affecting the triplets. The next day, Maya tried calling the Richardson house. A recorded message informed her that her number had been blocked. She created a new email address and sent detailed information about Wilson's disease to both Richard's business email and Victoria's personal account. No response came. 3 days after being fired, Maya drove past the Richardson estate, hoping to speak with other staff members. The security guard spotted her car and immediately approached. "Mrs. Richardson said if you come back, we should call the police," he informed her coldly. "Please, just tell me how the girls are doing," Maya pleaded. "Move along or I'm calling the authorities," he replied, hand moving to his radio. Maya needed money to pay her rent. Her savings would only last 2 weeks. She applied for a job at Sunshine Acres nursing home and was hired immediately due to her partial nursing training. "The pay isn't great, but we're always short-staffed," the administrator explained. "The work was exhausting. helping elderly residents bathe, eat, and move around. But it reminded Maya of why she had wanted to become a nurse. Each night, she returned to her apartment and continued researching the triplets' condition. A week after the gala, Maya met her elderly neighbor in the hallway. "You look worried, dear," Mrs. Ramirez said, her kind eyes noticing Maya's distress. "I'm worried about 3 little girls," Maya admitted. "They're sick, but their mother won't listen." "Sometimes people in power don't want to hear the truth," Mrs. Ramirez said, "but the truth has a way of making itself known. Don't give up." Maya contacted a free legal aid clinic explaining the situation. "I'm sorry," the lawyer told her. "Without being a relative or having legal standing, there's little you can do officially. Child Protective Services requires evidence of clear neglect or abuse, not just a medical opinion from someone who is not their doctor." 2 weeks after being fired, Maya visited Hamilton Hardware Store to fix a leaking faucet in her apartment. As she examined washers in aisle 3, she noticed a familiar face: Tom Parker, the Richardsons' gardener. Tom was a quiet man in his 50s who had always been kind to the triplets, sometimes bringing them flowers from the garden. He recognized Maya immediately. "I heard what happened at the gala," he said, looking around to make sure no one was listening. Victoria was furious. "How are the girls?" Maya asked urgently. Tom hesitated. "Not good. They ask about you every day. Zoe cries at bedtime because you're not there to read her stories." Maya's heart ached. "And their health?" "Worse, I think. Phoebe fell yesterday because her legs were too weak to hold her up. Chloe sleeps most of the day now." "Has a doctor seen them?" Maya asked. Victoria called their regular pediatrician. He came to the house, but she wouldn't let him do any tests. Said the girls just had a virus. Maya took a deep breath. "Tom, I need your help. The girls might have a serious liver condition called Wilson's disease. Without treatment, they could get much worse." Tom looked nervous. "I can't lose my job, Maya. I have a grandson to support. I understand, but this is about 3 little girls who might be in real danger." Maya pulled a piece of paper from her purse. "This is my phone number. If you notice anything changing with the girls, please call me." Tom took the paper reluctantly. "I don't know. Please, Tom, you might be their only chance." Tom slowly put the paper in his pocket. "Victoria hired a new nanny yesterday." "What's she like?" "Young, nervous. Her name is Eleanor Brooks." Tom lowered his voice. "The first thing Victoria told her was to never mention your name to the girls, and not to let them see a doctor without her permission." Maya felt cold fear run through her body. That confirms she's deliberately avoiding medical help. "I should go," Tom said, looking at his watch. "I can't be late back to the house." "Thank you, Tom. The girls are lucky to have you there." As Tom walked away, Maya stood in the hardware store aisle, a new determination building inside her. Victoria had created a barrier between Maya and the triplets, but now she had found a way through it. With Tom as her eyes inside the mansion, she could still help the girls. Now she needed to create a plan to get the triplets the medical attention they desperately needed, even if that meant going against one of the most powerful families in Los Angeles. Maya left the hardware store with a renewed sense of purpose. She now had a connection inside the Richardson mansion. That evening, her phone buzzed with a text from Tom. "This is Tom. Just checking if this number works." Maya quickly responded, "Yes, it works. Thank you for helping." 3 days later, Tom texted again. "All 3 girls have doctor's appointment tomorrow. Home visit." This was an important update. Maya immediately called Jessica at the hospital. "The girls are seeing their pediatrician tomorrow," Maya explained. "It's Dr. Wilson from Wilshire Pediatrics. Do you know him?" "Dr. Wilson? Yes, he's good but not a specialist in rare diseases," Jessica replied. "He might miss the signs if he's not specifically looking for Wilson's disease." "What should I do?" Maya asked. "You need to get him information about what to look for," Jessica said. "But be careful. You don't want Victoria to block this doctor visit too." Maya spent the evening writing a careful note for Eleanor Brooks, the new nanny. She avoided accusing Victoria of anything, focusing instead on the medical facts. "Dear Eleanor, I'm Maya Thompson, the former nanny. I'm writing because I'm concerned about the triplets' health. They've been showing symptoms of a rare liver condition called Wilson's disease, bruising, fatigue, yellowing eyes. Please encourage Dr. Wilson to check for these specific things. This isn't about me or Mrs. Richardson. It's only about the girls' health." The next morning, Maya met Tom at a coffee shop before his shift. "Can you give this to Eleanor when Victoria isn't around?" Maya asked, handing him the sealed envelope. Tom looked nervous. "She's always watching the staff. Please try. Victoria goes to yoga every Tuesday morning at 9, right?" Tom nodded. "I'll try then." 2 days passed with no word. Maya worked her shifts at Sunshine Acres Nursing Home, but her thoughts remained with the triplets. Finally, on Thursday, her phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "This is Eleanor. Tom gave me your note. I've noticed the same symptoms. Doctor, Wilson came, but Mrs. R didn't let him do blood tests. She said just a virus. I'm worried too." Maya felt both relief at having another ally and fear that the girls were still not getting proper treatment. She called the number immediately. "Eleanor? Thank you for texting. How are the girls really doing?" Eleanor spoke quietly, as if afraid of being overheard. "Getting worse. Zoe cries for you every night. Victoria told them you left because you didn't want to be with them anymore." Maya's heart broke. "That's not true. I love those girls." "I know, I can tell from your note. Victoria won't let them talk about you." "What happened with Dr. Wilson's visit?" Maya asked. "He wanted to do blood work after seeing their symptoms, but Victoria interrupted. She told him they were just tired from too many activities. When he suggested testing anyway, she said she'd get a second opinion instead. She never will." "Is Richard ever home with them?" Maya asked. "Hardly ever. He's been traveling more since the gala. When he is home, Victoria makes sure he doesn't spend time alone with the girls." Maya took a deep breath. "Eleanor, would you be willing to help me document their symptoms? Take photos if you can do it safely." There was a pause. "I need this job, but yes, these little girls need help." Over the next week, Maya received regular updates from both Tom and Eleanor. The news was increasingly concerning. Zoe had developed more bruises. Chloe was now sleeping 14 hours a day. Phoebe's eyes were noticeably yellow. Eleanor managed to take discreet photos of the symptoms and send them to Maya. One evening, while the girls were in the bath, Eleanor texted, "Phoebe asked when you're coming back again. She said her tummy hurts all the time now." Maya shared the updates and photos with Jessica, who became more alarmed. "These symptoms are progressing," Jessica said, examining the new photos. "The jaundice in Phoebe's eyes is much more pronounced. Have you considered calling Child Protective Services?" "I've thought about it," Maya admitted. "But Eleanor says Victoria has friends in the department. Without medical confirmation, it would be my word against hers. She would just say I'm a disgruntled ex-employee. What about Richard? Have you tried reaching him directly?" "I've sent emails to every address I could find. No response. Victoria probably controls his incoming messages." One afternoon, while Maya was helping an elderly resident at Sunshine Acres, her phone buzzed with an urgent text from Eleanor. "Zoe collapsed today. Victoria called Dr. Wilson. He came and insisted on blood tests. Victoria finally agreed but told him it's just anemia. She's panicking." That evening, Tom and Eleanor both reported that the blood tests had been done, but Victoria instructed Dr. Wilson to only check for anemia and common viruses. "He didn't check for the liver things you mentioned," Eleanor texted. Victoria specifically told him what to test for. Maya felt helpless. "We need Richard to get involved. He's the only one who can override Victoria's decisions." 2 days later, an opportunity emerged. Tom texted, "Victoria planning week-long spa trip to Arizona. leaving Saturday morning. Maya immediately called Eleanor. "Is this true? Victoria will be gone for a week?" "Yes," Eleanor confirmed. "She's going to Desert Springs Spa in Arizona. Some special treatment she does twice a year." "Will Richard be home?" "He's supposed to work from home part of next week, some big project he needs quiet for." Maya's mind raced. This might be our chance. Richard needs to see the medical evidence directly, without Victoria filtering it. Together, they formed a plan. Maya would prepare a comprehensive letter for Richard with all the medical information, symptom documentation, and photos. Eleanor would leave it on his desk when Victoria was gone. "He can't ignore physical evidence right in front of him," Maya said. "I'm scared of losing my job," Eleanor admitted. "But I'm more scared of what happens if these little girls don't get help soon." Maya spent 2 days creating a detailed report. She included printouts of medical journal articles about Wilson's disease, a timeline of the triplets' symptoms with Eleanor's photos, and a heartfelt letter explaining her concerns. Jessica reviewed the medical information to ensure accuracy. "This is thorough," Jessica said. "If he has any love for his daughters, this will make him act." On Friday night, Maya's phone rang. It was Eleanor. "Victoria just left for her spa trip. She's taking an early flight tomorrow, so she went to a hotel near the airport tonight." "Is Richard home?" Maya asked. "Yes, he's working in his study. The girls are already asleep. Tomorrow morning, when he's having breakfast, leave the envelope on his desk. Make sure it's positioned where he can't miss it." "I will," Eleanor promised. "The girls miss you so much, Maya." Today, Chloe asked if you were coming back for her birthday. "Tell them I think about them every day," Maya said, her voice catching. "And Eleanor, thank you for being brave." As Maya ended the call, she felt both hope and fear. If Richard ignored her letter, she was out of options. But if he read it, if he truly saw what was happening to his daughters, everything could change. She placed her phone on her nightstand and tried to sleep, knowing tomorrow would determine the fate of 3 little girls she had come to love as her own. As Victoria's car pulled away from the hotel toward the airport, Maya whispered a silent prayer that Richard would finally see the truth that had been hiding in plain sight for too long. The next morning, Richard Richardson sat at his desk reviewing quarterly reports when he noticed a thick envelope that hadn't been there the day before. His name was written on it in neat handwriting. Opening it, he found dozens of pages of medical information, photographs, and a letter. "Dear Mr. Richardson," the letter began, "this is Maya Thompson, your former nanny. I'm writing because I believe Zoe, Chloe, and Phoebe are seriously ill with a condition that needs immediate medical attention." Richard's first instinct was to dismiss it. Victoria had told him Maya was unstable, fired for causing a scene at the gala. But then he saw the photographs, close-up images of his daughters with yellow-tinged eyes, unusual bruising, and pale, sickly complexions. These were recent photos, dated just days ago. As he read through Maya's detailed timeline of symptoms, something cold settled in his stomach. Could he really have missed this? He rarely saw the girls for more than a few minutes at breakfast, usually while checking his phone. He buzzed for Eleanor on the house intercom. "Yes, Mr. Richardson?" Eleanor answered nervously. "Please bring the girls to my study." 10 minutes later, Eleanor arrived with the triplets. Richard really looked at his daughters, perhaps for the first time in months. Chloe leaned heavily against Eleanor's leg. Zoe's arms were covered with fading bruises in various colors. Phoebe's eyes had a distinct yellow tint that wasn't visible in their normal family photos, which were always carefully edited. "Daddy, are you working?" Phoebe asked, her voice weaker than he remembered. "No, sweetheart. I wanted to see you." Richard knelt down. "How are you feeling today?" "My tummy hurts," Chloe said quietly. "Mine too," Zoe added. "And my legs feel funny." Richard gently examined the bruises on Zoe's arms. "How did you get these?" "I don't know, they just come," Zoe said. "Miss Maya used to put cream on them, but Mommy says Miss Maya doesn't love us anymore." Richard felt a sharp pang of guilt. "That's not true. I'm sure Miss Maya cares about you very much." After the girls left with Eleanor, Richard picked up the phone and called his assistant. "Jennifer, I need Dr. Andrew Keller's phone number immediately. He's a pediatric specialist at Cedars-Sinai." "Is everything okay, sir?" Jennifer asked. "No," Richard admitted. "It's not." Within an hour, Richard was speaking directly with Dr. Keller, whom he had met at a hospital fundraiser the previous year. "Dr. Keller, I need a favor. My daughters, all three of them, are showing concerning symptoms. I have reason to believe they might have Wilson's disease." "That's a very specific concern," Dr. Keller replied. "What symptoms are they showing?" Richard read from Maya's list: unexplained bruising, extreme fatigue, abdominal pain, and yellowing of the eyes. "It's been progressing for weeks. I can come to your home this afternoon," Dr. Keller said, his tone now serious. "This does warrant immediate evaluation." By 3 o'clock, Dr. Keller was at the Richardson mansion. He spent nearly an hour examining each girl individually in their playroom. Richard waited anxiously outside, pacing the hallway. Finally, Dr. Keller emerged, his expression grave. "Mr. Richardson, I believe your concerns are well-founded. All three girls are showing classic signs of Wilson's disease. We need to do blood work and liver function tests immediately." "How serious is this?" Richard asked. "Potentially very serious. If untreated, it can cause liver failure and neurological damage, but caught in time, it can be managed effectively with medication." Richard felt his knees weaken. "I'll call the hospital and arrange everything." "Who first noticed these symptoms?" Dr. Keller asked. "Their former nanny, Maya Thompson. She tried to tell us weeks ago," Richard admitted, shame washing over him. "My wife dismissed her concerns." After Dr. Keller left, Richard found Maya's phone number in the household records. His hand shook as he dialed. "Hello?" Maya answered cautiously. "Maya, this is Richard Richardson. I received your letter." There was a long silence before Maya spoke. "How are the girls?" "Dr. Keller just examined them. He thinks you're right about Wilson's disease. They need tests immediately." Maya's voice broke with emotion. "Thank goodness you're getting them help." "I need to talk to you in person," Richard said. "Can you meet me tomorrow?" "Coffee shop near Cedars-Sinai at 9 in the morning." "I'll be there," Maya agreed. The next morning, Richard arrived at the coffee shop first. When Maya walked in, he barely recognized her in her nursing home uniform, looking tired but determined. "Thank you for coming," Richard said as Maya sat down. "I didn't do this for you," Maya replied directly. "I did it for Zoe, Chloe, and Phoebe." "I know, and I'm grateful." Richard looked down at his untouched coffee. "I've failed them as a father." "Yes, you have," Maya agreed, not softening the truth. "But you can help them now." For the next hour, Maya shared specific observations about each girl: how Chloe's symptoms appeared first, how Zoe tried to hide her pain, how Phoebe's energy declined most rapidly. "They have appointment at Cedars-Sinai this afternoon for comprehensive testing," Richard said. "Will you come? They trust you." "Of course I will," Maya said without hesitation. "I owe you an apology," Richard added, "for not listening, for letting Victoria dismiss you." "Yes, you do," Maya said, "but that's not important right now." As they prepared to leave, Richard's phone rang. It was Eleanor. "Mr. Richardson, you need to come home right away. Mrs. Richardson just returned unexpectedly and she's furious about Dr. Keller's visit." Richard drove Maya to the mansion. When they arrived, Victoria's voice could be heard shouting from the living room. Richard asked Maya to wait in the kitchen with the girls while he spoke to his wife. Victoria stood in the center of the room, still wearing her travel clothes. "How dare you bring a doctor here without consulting me?" Victoria demanded. "And now I hear you're taking them for tests? Based on that woman's crazy theories?" "Dr. Keller confirmed Maya's concerns," Richard said firmly. "The girls are sick, Victoria. They need treatment. Children get sick all the time. They don't need specialists and tests and—" "Stop it!" Richard's voice rose for the first time in their marriage. "Look at them, Victoria. Really look at them. Chloe can barely walk. Phoebe's eyes are yellow. Zoe is covered in bruises. "You're overreacting," Victoria insisted. "And why is that woman in our house?" "I fired her." "I invited her because she cares about our daughters more than either of us have," Richard said. "She's the only one who noticed they were seriously ill." Victoria's face hardened. "If you choose to continue this ridiculous medical drama and involve that woman, you're choosing against me." "Then I'm choosing against you," Richard said quietly, "because our daughter's health matters more than your pride." Victoria stepped back as if slapped. "You will regret this. I'm calling my lawyer." "Call whoever you want," Richard replied. "The girls are going to the hospital for testing today. You can either support them or step aside." Victoria grabbed her purse. "This isn't over, Richard." She stormed out of the room. In the kitchen, Maya sat with all three girls at the table, helping them color pictures. When Richard entered, he saw how naturally the triplets responded to her, how they smiled despite their illness. "Daddy, Miss Maya says we need special medicine to feel better," Phoebe said. "That's right," Richard confirmed, sitting down with them. "We're going to the hospital soon to find out exactly what medicine will help you most." "Will you come too, Miss Maya?" Chloe asked, leaning against Maya's arm. "Yes, if your daddy wants me to," Maya replied, looking at Richard. "I definitely want you to," Richard said. "In fact, I'd like to give you temporary authority to help make medical decisions when I can't be there. Would you be willing to do that?" Maya nodded, surprised. "Of course. Whatever helps the girls." As they prepared to leave for the hospital, Victoria returned with an older man in an expensive suit. "Richard, this is Gerald Goldstein, my attorney," Victoria announced. "He's here to stop you from giving medical authority to the hired help." Richard calmly handed the signed authorization forms to Maya. "It's already done, Victoria. You can fight me in court later if you want, but right now, our daughters need medical care." As Richard helped the girls into his car, he felt both dread and relief. Dread about what the tests might show, but relief that he was finally doing what a father should do. Eleanor handed him the girls' favorite stuffed animals for the hospital visit. Maya sat in the back with the triplets, telling them a story to keep them calm. Richard caught her eye in the rearview mirror and mouthed, "Thank you." She nodded slightly in acknowledgement. Just as they pulled away from the mansion, Richard's phone rang with a call from the hospital. The girls had been given priority status due to Dr. Keller's intervention. The testing would begin as soon as they arrived. The Richardson family arrived at Cedars-Sinai Medical Center just before noon. Richard parked in the emergency area, where a nurse with a wheelchair was waiting. "I can walk, Daddy," Chloe insisted, though she wobbled when standing. "We have special chairs for everyone," the nurse explained kindly. "Hospital rules." Maya helped settle each girl into a wheelchair. As they entered the pediatric testing area, Phoebe suddenly slumped forward in her chair. "Phoebe?" Maya touched her shoulder. "Phoebe, can you hear me?" The little girl didn't respond. Her face had turned an alarming grayish color. "She's unresponsive," Maya called out. "We need help now." Medical staff rushed toward them. Dr. Keller appeared from a nearby office and took immediate control of the situation. "Get her to pediatric emergency stat," he ordered. "Full liver panel, coagulation studies, and check ammonia levels." Everything became a blur of activity. Nurses lifted Phoebe onto a gurney while another team guided Zoe and Chloe to a separate treatment area. "What's happening?" Richard asked, his face pale with fear. "Her liver may be failing," Dr. Keller explained quickly. "We need to stabilize her. The other girls need immediate testing too, but they're not critical yet." "I'll stay with Zoe and Chloe," Maya offered. "You go with Phoebe." Richard nodded gratefully and followed the gurney carrying his unconscious daughter. For the first time, he truly understood the seriousness of the situation. This wasn't just some minor illness. His daughter's life was in danger. In the emergency bay, doctors and nurses worked efficiently around Phoebe. They inserted IVs, attached monitors, and drew multiple vials of blood. Richard stood frozen, watching his tiny daughter surrounded by medical equipment. "Mr. Richardson," A nurse approached him. "We need some medical history information." Richard realized with shame that he couldn't answer many of their questions about Phoebe's recent symptoms. He called Maya's cell phone. "Maya, the doctors need information about Phoebe's symptoms. When did the abdominal pain start? Has she been eating normally?" "The pain started about 3 weeks ago," Maya answered. "She's been eating less each day. Yesterday she only had a few bites of toast and some apple juice. She's also been complaining about her legs feeling fuzzy. I think she means numbness or tingling." Richard relayed this information to the medical team. Dr. Keller nodded in acknowledgement. "This helps confirm our suspicions. We're treating her for acute liver dysfunction consistent with Wilson's disease, while we wait for the definitive test results." In the testing area, Maya sat between Zoe and Chloe, holding their hands as nurses drew blood and performed ultrasounds of their livers. "Where's Phoebe?" Chloe asked, her voice small and frightened. Maya kept her voice calm despite her worry. "The doctors are giving Phoebe special medicine to help her feel better. Your daddy is with her." "Are we sick too?" Zoe asked. "Yes, sweetie, but the doctors are going to help you get better," Maya assured her. A commotion at the entrance to the pediatric ward caught Maya's attention. Victoria had arrived, and she was arguing loudly with a security guard. "I am Victoria Richardson. Those are my children in there," she shouted. "That woman has no right to be with them." Dr. Keller stepped away from Phoebe's bedside to address the situation. "Mrs. Richardson, please lower your voice. We have critically ill children here." "Where are my daughters? What has she done to them?" Victoria demanded, pointing at Maya. Richard emerged from Phoebe's room, his face tense with stress and anger. "Victoria, stop this immediately. Phoebe has collapsed. She's unconscious. This is serious." Victoria's expression flickered between concern and anger. "This is exactly why we should have used our private doctor, not this public circus." She lowered her voice slightly. "What exactly is wrong with her?" Dr. Keller spoke firmly. "Mrs. Richardson, preliminary tests strongly suggest Wilson's disease, a genetic disorder that causes copper to accumulate in the liver and brain. Phoebe is in acute liver failure. We're starting treatment immediately." "And this affects all 3 girls?" Victoria asked, her composure slipping. "Yes. We're testing Zoe and Chloe now, but they show similar symptoms, just not as advanced as Phoebe's." Victoria turned to Richard. "This is ridiculous." "I want a second opinion." Richard's patience finally snapped. "Enough, Victoria. Our daughter is fighting for her life because we ignored Maya's warnings for weeks. If you can't be helpful, then leave." Victoria stepped back, shocked by his outburst. "You can't speak to me that way." "I just did," Richard said. "Either support our daughters or go. Those are your only options right now." Victoria stared at him for a long moment, then turned and walked toward the exit. "My attorney will be in touch." As Victoria left, Maya approached Richard. "Dr. Keller wants to start treatment for Zoe and Chloe right away. They need your consent." Richard signed the forms without hesitation. "How are they doing?" "Scared, but stable. They're asking about Phoebe." Together, they returned to the treatment area where Zoe and Chloe were receiving IVs of their own. "The medicine in these tubes will help get the bad stuff out of your bodies," Maya explained to the girls in simple terms. "You'll need to take special medicine every day to stay healthy." "Forever?" Chloe asked. "Yes, but it will help you feel much better," Maya assured her. Dr. Keller joined them with updates on Phoebe. "She's stabilizing. The next 24 hours are critical, but I'm cautiously optimistic." "Thank you," Richard said, his voice breaking. "Thank you for taking us seriously." "Actually, you should thank Maya," Dr. Keller replied. "Without her persistence, we might not have caught this in time." He turned to Maya with professional curiosity. "You mentioned you had nursing training?" 2 years at UCLA nursing school before I had to drop out to care for my mother," Maya explained. "Your observations were remarkably accurate. You have good instincts," Dr. Keller noted. As the day progressed, Phoebe was moved to the pediatric intensive care unit while Zoe and Chloe were admitted to regular pediatric rooms. Maya stayed with the conscious girls while Richard divided his time between all three. That evening, as Maya helped the girls eat their dinner, Richard received a call from his attorney. Victoria has filed for an emergency court order to remove Maya from any involvement with the children, the lawyer explained. She's claiming Maya manipulated the medical situation to gain your trust. Richard watched through the room's window as Maya patiently helped Chloe drink from a straw, her manner gentle and reassuring. "Fight it with everything we have," Richard instructed his lawyer. Maya is essential to the girls' care. When visiting hours ended, Richard insisted that Maya be allowed to stay overnight with the girls as their designated caregiver. "They need familiar faces," he explained to the nursing staff, "and honestly, she knows more about their recent symptoms than I do." Late that night, as Zoe and Chloe finally slept, Richard found Maya sitting beside Phoebe's bed in the PICU, talking softly to the unconscious child. "You're doing so well, Phoebe," Maya was saying. "Everyone is waiting for you to wake up. Zoe saved you a red Jell-O cup because she knows it's your favorite." Richard sat beside her. "Why are you doing all this? After how we treated you, most people would have walked away." Maya looked at him directly. "Because these girls matter to me. I couldn't walk away knowing they were sick. Even after Victoria humiliated you at the gala, after I let it happen, this isn't about me or you or Victoria," Maya said simply. "It's about 3 little girls who need help." Richard nodded, understanding something fundamental about Maya's character. "Thank you. Not just for alerting us, but for staying." Their conversation was interrupted by Dr. Keller, who entered with a tablet in his hand. His expression was puzzled. "Mr. Richardson, we've received some preliminary genetic test results, and there's something unusual we need to discuss." "Is it bad news?" Richard asked, immediately concerned. "Not necessarily bad, just unexpected." Dr. Keller closed the door. "All 3 girls definitely have Wilson's disease, but their genetic markers show something surprising. The mutations aren't identical in all 3 girls." "What does that mean?" Maya asked. "In identical triplets, we would expect identical genetic markers," Dr. Keller explained. "But Phoebe's genetic profile is slightly different from Zoe and Chloe's." Richard looked confused. "That's impossible. They're identical triplets. They look exactly the same. Appearances can be remarkably similar in siblings even when they're not identical," Dr. Keller said. "We'd need more testing to confirm, but these preliminary results suggest that Phoebe may not be genetically identical to her sisters." Richard stared at the doctor in disbelief. "Are you saying my daughters aren't all the same?" "That's impossible. They were conceived through IVF. They're identical triplets." "I think we need to talk about the possibility that these children may not be who you think they are," Dr. Keller said gently. Richard stared at Dr. Keller, struggling to understand what he had just heard. The hospital room suddenly felt too small, the beeping machines too loud. "What do you mean, not who I think they are?" "They're my daughters," Richard said, his voice barely above a whisper. Dr. Keller pointed to his tablet screen showing genetic data. "These are the preliminary results of the genetic testing we did today. All 3 girls have Wilson's disease, which is a genetic condition passed from parents to children, but Phoebe has a slightly different genetic pattern than her sisters." "Is there a mistake in the testing?" Maya asked. "We'll run additional tests to confirm, but these results are highly unusual for identical triplets," Dr. Keller explained. "Identical triplets come from a single fertilized egg that splits into 3. They should have identical DNA." Richard shook his head in disbelief. "We did IVF at Pacific Fertility Center. Dr. Marcus told us we had identical triplets. We saw the ultrasounds. IVF?" Dr. Keller asked, his expression changing slightly. "That adds another possibility. Sometimes with IVF, multiple embryos are implanted. It's possible not all embryos came from the same genetic source." That's impossible, Richard insisted. Victoria and I provided our eggs and sperm. That's it. The room fell silent except for the steady beeping of Phoebe's monitors. Maya touched Richard's arm gently. Maybe you should talk to Victoria about this, she suggested. Richard nodded slowly, his world tilting off balance. I'll call her. Victoria arrived at the hospital 30 minutes later, her face a mask of practiced concern as she entered the private consultation room where Richard waited. How is Phoebe? She asked immediately. Stable, Richard replied. The doctors are hopeful. Good. Now explain why you demanded I come back here in the middle of the night. Richard studied his wife's face, searching for signs of deception. The genetic tests showed something strange. Phoebe has different genetic markers than Zoe and Chloe. Victoria's expression remained perfectly composed, but her hand tightened on her purse. The tests are wrong. Dr. Keller doesn't think so. He says it's impossible for identical triplets to have different genetic patterns. Richard leaned forward. Is there something you never told me about our IVF process, Victoria? Of course not, she said, but her eyes darted away briefly. Victoria, our daughters are fighting for their lives because of a genetic disease. Now is not the time for secrets. Victoria stood up and walked to the window, her back to Richard. For several moments, she said nothing. It was just one embryo, she finally said, her voice so quiet Richard barely heard her. What? Victoria turned, her carefully maintained composure cracking. I asked Dr. Marcus to use a donor egg for one of the embryos. He agreed to do it without telling you. Richard felt as if he'd been punched. You used someone else's egg? Without telling me? Just for one embryo, Victoria repeated. The other two are genetically ours. I couldn't risk all of them. Risk what? Richard demanded. Victoria sank back into her chair. My family has a history of severe bipolar disorder. My mother had it. My uncle committed suicide because of it. I've managed mine with medication since college. Richard stared at her in shock. You have bipolar disorder? How could you hide something that important from me for our entire marriage? Because people like us don't admit to mental illness, Victoria snapped. It would have ruined everything. My modeling career, my position in society. No one could know. So, you secretly used a donor egg for Phoebe without my knowledge or consent? Victoria nodded slowly. The donor was a medical student with perfect health history. I thought I was protecting our family. By lying to me for 5 years? By making medical decisions about our children without my knowledge? Richard's voice rose with each question. You were always too busy with work to be involved in the IVF process anyway, Victoria countered. You just signed the papers and wrote the checks. The truth of her words stung Richard deeply. He had been an absent husband even then. Does this change how you feel about Phoebe? Victoria asked, her voice suddenly vulnerable. Richard thought about his little girl lying in the PICU fighting for her life. No, she's my daughter no matter whose egg was used. But our marriage? He shook his head. I don't know if I can ever trust you again. Victoria's face hardened. You chose that maid over me. Our marriage was already over. While Richard confronted Victoria, Maya sat with Zoe and Chloe in their hospital room. Both girls had finally fallen asleep after hours of tests and treatments. Their small arms were bruised from needle punctures, their faces pale against the white hospital pillows. Dr. Keller entered quietly. How are they doing? He asked Maya, finally sleeping. The medicine made Zoe sick to her stomach earlier, but she's better now. Dr. Keller checked their vital signs and nodded with satisfaction. You're very good with them. They trust you. I've been with them every day for 2 years, Maya explained. Sometimes I was the only adult they saw all day. You mentioned nursing school earlier. Why did you leave? Dr. Keller asked. My mother got cancer, stage 4 breast cancer. I dropped out to care for her and work to pay her medical bills. Maya adjusted Chloe's blanket gently. After she died, I still had all her medical debt. Being a live-in maid at least gave me a place to stay while I paid it off. Dr. Keller watched how carefully Maya tended to the girls. Have you considered returning to nursing school? You have a natural talent for pediatric care. Before Maya could answer, Richard returned to the room, his face showing the strain of his conversation with Victoria. How are they? He asked immediately. Stable. The treatment is working, Dr. Keller assured him. I need to check on Phoebe now. After Dr. Keller left, Richard sat heavily in the chair beside Maya. Victoria admitted it. She used a donor egg for Phoebe without telling me. Oh, Richard, Maya said softly. I'm so sorry. She has bipolar disorder, has had it our entire marriage and never told me. She was afraid of passing it to our children, so she used a donor egg for Phoebe. Richard ran his hands through his hair. How could I not know these things about my own wife? You've been focused on your companies, Maya said, not unkindly. That's no excuse. I failed them, failed all three of them. Richard looked at his sleeping daughters. Will they be okay, Maya? Tell me the truth. The doctors are giving them excellent care. With proper treatment, they can live normal lives. Maya hesitated. Are you going to tell them about Phoebe's genetic difference? Richard shook his head. Not now. They're sisters, raised as identical triplets. Finding out otherwise would only confuse them at this age. He watched Zoe turn in her sleep, her small hand reaching out as if searching for her sisters. Biology doesn't change who they are to each other, or to me. The next morning, Maya helped the girls eat breakfast while Richard met with Phoebe's medical team. Victoria had not returned after their late-night confrontation. When can we see Phoebe? Chloe asked, pushing her hospital food around on her plate. Soon, sweetie. She's getting special medicine to help her get stronger, Maya explained. Is Phoebe going to die? Zoe asked suddenly, her eyes wide with fear. No, Maya said firmly. The doctors are helping her, and she's getting better every hour. Richard entered with good news. Phoebe woke up this morning. She's asking for her sisters. The girls' faces lit up with joy. Dr. Keller arranged for Zoe and Chloe to visit Phoebe briefly in the PICU with strict instructions to stay back from the medical equipment. Seeing the three girls together, Phoebe pale but awake, Zoe and Chloe hovering nearby, Richard felt a surge of love and protectiveness. In that moment, it didn't matter whose genetic material had created them, they were his daughters. As the family reunion took place, Victoria was meeting with her publicist in the hospital parking lot. We need to get ahead of this story, Victoria insisted. Richard is allowing that former maid to make medical decisions for our children. It's inappropriate and concerning. What's your ideal outcome here? The publicist asked. I want Maya Thompson removed from my children's lives, and I want public sympathy on my side when the divorce happens. Divorce? Are you sure about this? Victoria's eyes hardened. Richard has made his choice. Now I'm making mine. Back in the hospital room, Richard watched Maya reading a book to Zoe and Chloe. She had created simple drawings to explain their condition in terms 5-year-olds could understand. The special medicine helps your body get rid of the extra copper, she explained, showing a cartoon of a tiny janitor sweeping through a body. You'll need to take it every day to stay healthy. Forever and ever? Zoe asked. Yes, but it will become normal just like brushing your teeth, Maya assured her. Richard stepped closer. Maya, could I speak with you privately? In the hallway, Richard took a deep breath. I want to ask you something important. Would you consider coming back to work for us? For me and the girls? They need you. I need you. Before Maya could answer, a nurse approached with a tablet computer. Mr. Richardson? You might want to see this. On the screen was a breaking news alert with the headline, Tech Billionaire's Nanny Scandal. Insider sources claim fired maid manipulated Richardson family crisis to seduce grieving father. Richard's face darkened as he read the headline. The article beneath it claimed an unnamed source close to the family stated that Maya Thompson had invented health concerns about the Richardson triplets to manipulate her way back into the household and pursue a romantic relationship with Richard. "This is Victoria's work," Richard said, his voice tight with anger. "She's trying to control the narrative." Maya stared at the screen, her face pale. "People will believe this. They'll think I'm trying to—" "No one who matters will believe it," Richard interrupted. "The doctors know the truth. I know the truth." But by the next morning, the story had exploded across social media. More tabloids picked it up, adding embellishments with each new version. As Maya tried to enter the hospital through the main entrance, a group of photographers surrounded her. "Maya, are you having an affair with Richard Richardson? Did you fake the triplets' illness to get close to him? What do you say to Victoria's claims that you're obsessed with her husband?" Hospital security had to escort Maya through a service entrance. Inside, Richard was on the phone with his lawyer. "I don't care what it costs," he was saying. "I want a retraction from every outlet that published these lies." See, Maya approached hesitantly. "Maybe I should stay away for a while. This attention isn't good for the girls." "Absolutely not," Richard said firmly. "Victoria is trying to separate you from us because she knows how much the girls need you." He put his hand on her shoulder. "Don't let her win." Dr. Keller arrived with test results, his face showing the strain of navigating through the media circus outside. "I have confirmation," he announced. "All 3 girls definitely have Wilson's disease. We've already started the copper chelation therapy for Phoebe, and we'll begin with Zoe and Chloe today." "Will they recover completely?" Richard asked. "With proper treatment, they should lead normal lives," Dr. Keller explained. "But the medication can have uncomfortable side effects, especially at first. They'll need close monitoring and consistent care." Maya listened carefully to Dr. Keller's detailed explanation of the treatment plan. The first phase would use medication to remove excess copper from their bodies. Later, they would transition to daily medication to prevent copper buildup. "The next few weeks will be challenging," Dr. Keller warned. "The treatment can cause nausea, fever, and rashes. They'll feel worse before they feel better." Richard looked overwhelmed by the medical information. Maya noticed his confusion and stepped in. "Dr. Keller, could you provide written instructions for each girl's specific treatment? I want to make sure we follow everything exactly." Dr. Keller nodded, impressed by her attention to detail. "I'll have my team prepare that today." That afternoon, as Maya helped Zoe through her first treatment, the little girl cried from the discomfort. "It hurts, Miss Maya," Zoe whimpered as the medication entered her system through the IV. "I know, sweetie," Maya soothed, stroking Zoe's hair. "Your body is working hard to get better. Let's count all the purple things we can see in the room to distract you." Richard watched from the doorway, observing how naturally Maya calmed his daughter. He had never been good at comforting the girls when they were upset. Victoria usually called for the nanny instead of handling it herself. "You're remarkable with them," Richard said when Zoe finally fell asleep. "It's not remarkable," Maya replied. "It's just love and attention." A commotion in the hallway interrupted their conversation. Victoria had arrived with a camera crew from the morning show Wake Up America. "Mrs. Richardson, you can't bring cameras into the pediatric ward," a hospital administrator was saying firmly. "The public deserves to know how this woman has manipulated my family during a medical crisis," Victoria insisted loudly, perfectly styled in a conservative outfit that screamed, "Concerned mother." Richard strode into the hallway. "Victoria, stop this circus immediately. Our daughters are trying to rest." "Our daughters? You've given that woman medical authority over my children?" Victoria pointed dramatically at Maya, "the woman you've been seen with constantly since I left for my wellness retreat." The camera operator tried to film inside the girl's room until a security guard blocked him. "All media must leave the premises now," the head of hospital security announced. "This is a private medical facility, not a television studio. Victoria turned toward the camera. You see how they're trying to silence me? A mother simply trying to protect her children? Richard pulled Victoria aside, away from the cameras. You created this medical emergency by ignoring their symptoms for weeks. You lied about Phoebe's genetic background, and now you're using our sick daughters for publicity. It stops now. You can't keep me from my children, Victoria hissed. Actually, I can. Richard handed her a document. My attorney filed for an emergency medical decision order this morning. Until the divorce proceedings clarify custody arrangements, you are not permitted to make medical decisions for the girls. Victoria's carefully constructed expression slipped, revealing genuine shock. Divorce? You would actually divorce me? The papers were delivered to your attorney an hour ago, Richard confirmed. Now please leave before I have security remove you. Victoria's face hardened. This isn't over, Richard. Not by a long shot. She signaled to her camera crew and left, already planning her next media appearance. Later that evening, Maya sat with Chloe during her treatment. The little girl was experiencing side effects more severely than her sisters, with a high fever and nausea. Make it stop, Miss Maya, Chloe begged between bouts of vomiting. I wish I could, sweetheart, Maya said, holding a cool cloth to Chloe's forehead. Your body is fighting hard. You're being so brave. Richard brought ice chips for Chloe. How about a story to distract you? He offered, pulling a chair close to the bed. It was the first time Maya had seen him directly comfort one of his daughters. The princess one, Chloe requested weakly. Once upon a time there were 3 princess sisters who lived in a beautiful castle. Richard began, making up the story as he went along. They were the bravest princesses in all the land. Maya slipped out to check on the other girls, giving father and daughter a private moment. In the hallway, she met Dr. Keller. How is Phoebe responding? She asked. Better than expected. She's young, which helps with recovery. Her liver function is already improving. Dr. Keller studied Maya's tired face. You haven't left the hospital in 3 days. You need rest, too. I can't leave them, Maya said simply. The nurses mentioned you've been teaching them specific techniques for comforting each girl during treatments, Dr. Keller noted. Each child responds differently to the same medication. That's valuable information. Zoe needs physical touch to stay calm. Holding her hand works best. Chloe needs distraction through stories. Phoebe responds to music, Maya explained. I've learned their preferences over time. The next morning, Richard received a call from Sarah Chen, a respected journalist from the Washington Post. Mr. Richardson, I'd like to offer you an opportunity to address the allegations being made about your family situation, Sarah explained. We're interested in the medical story here, not the tabloid version. Richard agreed to meet her in the hospital's private conference room. Maya encouraged him to be completely honest. People need to know what really happened, she said. How Victoria ignored the symptoms, how she fired me for speaking up. The interview lasted 2 hours. Richard provided medical records, timeline documentation, and Dr. Keller's confirmation of the diagnosis. He explained how Maya had noticed the symptoms weeks before anyone else and had been dismissed for raising concerns. Maya Thompson didn't create a medical crisis, Richard told Sarah firmly. She prevented a tragedy. Without her persistence, we might have lost Phoebe, and the other girls would still be getting sicker with no explanation. When asked about his relationship with Maya, Richard was direct. She is the girl's former nanny who noticed symptoms everyone else missed. She's now helping us navigate their medical treatment because she knows them better than anyone. There is no romantic relationship, just enormous gratitude for her help during this crisis. 2 days later, the Washington Post published the interview, completely changing the public narrative. Medical experts were quoted confirming that Wilson's disease is often missed because its symptoms can resemble other conditions. The article praised Maya's observation skills and persistence. Maya began receiving supportive messages from former nursing school classmates who had seen the truth emerge. her phone filled with encouraging texts and offers of help. Victoria, however, refused to concede defeat. She appeared on a popular morning talk show, tearfully claiming that while the girls might be sick, Maya had taken advantage of a family medical crisis to insert herself between Victoria and her husband. "She has always been obsessed with Richard," Victoria claimed, dabbing at carefully manufactured tears. "She's using these poor children to get close to him." That evening, Richard found Maya in the hospital's small garden area. She sat alone on a bench, looking exhausted after helping Phoebe through a particularly difficult treatment. "Why do you keep doing this?" Richard asked, sitting beside her. "Despite the public attacks, the cameras following you, Victoria's lies, you're still here every day, helping my daughters." Maya looked surprised by the question. "Because they need me. Because I love them." "Most people would have walked away by now," Richard noted. "I'm not most people," Maya replied simply. Richard took her hand impulsively. "No, you certainly are not." The moment was interrupted by Richard's phone ringing. It was his attorney. "Richard, Victoria has made another move. She just filed an emergency petition with the family court claiming you're mentally unstable and being manipulated by Ms. Thompson. She's demanding exclusive custody of all 3 girls." Richard lowered his phone, his face pale with anger and concern. "Victoria is claiming I'm mentally unstable and you're manipulating me. She wants full custody of the girls." "Can she do that?" Maya asked, worried. "My attorney says the court scheduled an emergency hearing for tomorrow morning. The judge wants to resolve this quickly because it involves sick children." By 7 o'clock the next morning, Richard and Maya arrived at the Los Angeles County Family Court building. Reporters crowded the entrance, shouting questions as they passed. Inside, Richard's legal team waited in a private conference room. Janet Williams, his lead attorney, reviewed their strategy. "We have strong medical evidence on our side," Janet explained. "Dr. Keller will testify first about the girls' condition and the timeline of diagnosis. Then we'll have Eleanor Brooks describe Victoria's specific instructions to avoid medical care." "What about Tom Parker?" Richard asked. "He'll testify about Victoria telling the triplets that Maya abandoned them. We're painting a clear picture of a mother more concerned with appearances than her children's health." Maya sat quietly, reviewing her own testimony notes. She felt sick with anxiety about facing Victoria's aggressive attorney in court. At 9 o'clock, they entered the courtroom. Victoria sat on the opposite side with her legal team, looking perfectly composed in an expensive but conservative navy dress. She didn't acknowledge Richard or Maya. Judge Helen Martinez called the emergency hearing to order. "This court is considering an emergency custody petition filed by Victoria Richardson. Before making any temporary orders, I want to hear evidence from both sides." Victoria's attorney, Gerald Goldstein, presented their case first. "Your Honor, my client is a devoted mother whose children were taken from her care under false pretenses. While Mrs. Richardson was briefly away on a wellness retreat, her husband fell under the influence of Maya Thompson, a former household employee with no medical training who has ingratiated herself into this family crisis." Richard's attorney countered, "Your Honor, this case is about medical neglect. Mrs. Richardson repeatedly ignored serious symptoms in her children and actively prevented them from receiving necessary medical care. We have expert testimony confirming that her actions nearly resulted in tragedy." Judge Martinez nodded. "Call your first witness." Dr. Andrew Keller took the stand, explaining the triplets' condition in clear medical terms. All 3 Richardson girls have Wilson's disease, a genetic disorder that causes copper to accumulate in the liver and other organs. When they arrived at Cedars-Sinai, Phoebe Richardson was in acute liver failure. Without immediate intervention, she could have died within days. "And who first noticed these symptoms?" Richard's attorney asked. "Maya Thompson documented specific symptoms for weeks before the children received medical attention. Her observations were remarkably accurate and comprehensive." During cross-examination, Victoria's attorney tried to undermine Dr. Keller's testimony. Isn't it possible these symptoms only became serious very recently, and not weeks earlier as Ms. Thompson claims? No, Dr. Keller stated firmly. The copper accumulation that caused these symptoms happens gradually over time. These children were sick for weeks, possibly months, before treatment began. Next, Eleanor Brooks took the stand. The young nanny looked nervous but determined. Mrs. Richardson gave me specific instructions when I was hired, Eleanor testified. I was told never to mention Maya's name to the children and never to let them see a doctor without Victoria's permission, even if they seemed sick. Did she explain why? Janet Williams asked. She said Maya was a troublemaker who invented problems to get attention. She said the girls were perfectly healthy and any symptoms were just normal childhood issues. And what did you observe about the children's health? They were definitely sick, Eleanor stated. Chloe slept most of the day. Zoe had bruises everywhere. Phoebe's eyes were yellow. They asked for Maya constantly. Victoria stared coldly at Eleanor during her testimony. When Tom Parker testified next about Victoria telling the triplets that Maya had abandoned them, Victoria whispered angrily to her attorney. Finally, Maya took the stand. She felt Victoria's eyes burning into her as she was sworn in. Ms. Thompson, please explain how you first noticed the triplets' symptoms, Janet Williams requested. Maya spoke clearly, describing the bruising she first noticed on Zoe, the fatigue in Chloe, and the yellowing eyes of Phoebe. She explained how she documented these symptoms in her journal and attempted to alert Victoria multiple times. What happened when you brought these concerns to Mrs. Richardson? She dismissed them completely, Maya answered. She said I was looking for problems where there weren't any. When I persisted, she became angry. And what happened at the charity gala? Chloe looked dangerously ill that night. She could barely stand. I was so worried that I interrupted Victoria's speech to publicly suggest the girls needed medical attention. Victoria fired me immediately afterward. Victoria's attorney, Gerald Goldstein, approached for cross-examination with a predatory smile. Ms. Thompson, you were a nursing school dropout working as a maid, correct? I left nursing school to care for my mother during her cancer treatment, Maya clarified. I took the position with the Richardson family to pay off medical debts after her death. But you have no medical degree or license, yet you presumed to diagnose these children? I didn't diagnose them. I observed symptoms and suggested they needed medical attention. Goldstein changed tactics. Isn't it true that you developed feelings for Richard Richardson during your employment? No, Maya stated firmly. My concern has always been for the children. Yet you've been constantly by his side during this medical crisis, which conveniently began shortly after Mrs. Richardson fired you. I've been helping with the girls' care because they know and trust me, Maya replied, maintaining her composure despite the insinuations. Isn't it more accurate to say you manufactured a medical crisis to insert yourself between Mr. Richardson and his wife during a vulnerable time? Richard's attorney objected. Your Honor, counsel is ignoring the confirmed medical diagnosis from Cedars-Sinai's top specialists. Sustained, Judge Martinez ruled. Mr. Goldstein, the medical evidence is not in dispute here. When Victoria took the stand, she presented herself as a devoted mother blindsided by her husband's actions. I've always put my children first, Victoria claimed. Yes, they had some minor symptoms, but children get sick. Maya Thompson dramatically overreacted because she was obsessed with my husband and wanted to create a crisis she could exploit. Did you tell Dr. Wilson not to perform certain tests when he examined your daughters? Janet Williams asked during cross-examination. I simply didn't want unnecessary procedures that would frighten my children, Victoria replied smoothly. Mrs. Richardson, did you instruct Eleanor Brooks never to let the girls see a doctor without your permission? I wanted to be informed about my children's care. Any mother would. Janet showed the court a document. Your Honor, these are medical records showing Mrs. Richardson canceled 4 pediatric appointments in the month before this incident. Victoria's composure began to crack. They were just routine checkups that conflicted with more important events. More important than your daughter's health? You don't understand the demands of my position, Victoria snapped. I have obligations, appearances, commitments. I can't drop everything every time a child has a bruise or feels tired. Even when those symptoms indicated life-threatening illness, Victoria's carefully maintained mask finally slipped. Those girls have everything. Designer clothes, the best schools, beautiful home, perfect life, and all they do is demand more attention, more time, more energy. Do you know what it's like to have 3 identical children constantly needing you, constantly watching you? They're exhausting. And yes, I needed breaks sometimes. The courtroom fell silent at her outburst. Victoria realized her mistake and tried to recover. I mean, of course I love my children. I was just overwhelmed. Judge Martinez called for a 15-minute recess. In the hallway, Richard's attorney looked pleased. She just did our work for us, Janet whispered. That outburst revealed how she really feels about motherhood. When court resumed, Judge Martinez delivered her ruling. After considering testimony and evidence from both sides, this court finds that Victoria Richardson's petition for emergency custody is denied. Instead, I am granting Richard Richardson temporary full custody of all 3 children, with Victoria Richardson permitted supervised visitation once weekly until she completes parenting classes and psychological evaluation. Victoria gasped audibly. Her attorney immediately began whispering about appeals. Judge Martinez continued, "The court recognizes Maya Thompson's important role in identifying these children's medical condition. Mr. Richardson's decision to include her in their care appears to be in the best interest of the children during their recovery." Outside the courthouse, reporters swarmed around both parties. Victoria rushed to her car without comment, her publicist blocking cameras. Richard stood on the courthouse steps and made a brief statement. Today, the truth prevailed. My daughters are receiving the medical care they desperately needed thanks to Maya Thompson's persistence and courage. While their mother was concerned with appearances, Maya was concerned with their health. I'm grateful to her and to the medical team at Cedars-Sinai for saving my daughters' lives. As the reporters dispersed, Richard turned to Maya in the courthouse corridor. We won, he said with relief. The girls won, Maya corrected gently. That's what matters. Richard nodded, checking his watch. They're being released from the hospital tomorrow. I need to find us somewhere to live that's not the mansion. Victoria can keep that place. You're moving? Maya asked, surprised. Yes, I want a fresh start for the girls somewhere peaceful. Richard hesitated, then spoke carefully. Maya, the girls are being released from the hospital tomorrow. I have a proposal I'd like to discuss with you about their future care. Maya and Richard stood in the hospital hallway as nurses prepared the triplets for discharge. 6 months had passed since their diagnosis, and today they were finally going home. To a completely new home. What's your proposal about the girls' care? Maya asked. Richard led Maya to a quiet corner. I've bought a house in Malibu. Nothing too extravagant, just a comfortable place with ocean views that will be healing for the girls. It sounds lovely, Maya replied. The house has a separate guest cottage, Richard continued. I want you to live there, rent-free, while you return to nursing school. I'll cover your tuition and expenses. Maya stared at him in shock. Richard, that's too generous. No, it's practical, Richard insisted. The girls need someone who understands their medical condition. You already know how to administer their medications and recognize any concerning symptoms. You could hire a nurse, Maya pointed out. The girls love you, Maya. They trust you. After everything they've been through, they need stability. Richard paused. I need your help too. I'm learning how to be a real father, but I have a lot to learn. Maya considered the offer carefully. I would love to return to nursing school, and I can't imagine being separated from the girls now. So you'll accept? Yes, Maya said with a smile. Thank you. The next day, Richard drove Maya and the triplets to their new home in Malibu. The house was modern and bright, with large windows overlooking the Pacific Ocean. Unlike the formal mansion in Bel Air, this home felt warm and inviting. "We're going to live here?" Zoe asked in wonder as they walked through the front door. "Yes, sweetheart. This is our new home," Richard replied. "Where will Miss Maya live?" Phoebe asked, holding Maya's hand tightly. Richard pointed through a window toward a small cottage near the main house. "Maya will live right there, very close to us." "Promise you won't go away again?" Chloe asked Maya. Maya knelt down to look Chloe in the eyes. "I promise. I'll be here every day to help you take your medicine and make sure you stay healthy." The first weeks in their new home established routines centered around the girls' health. Each morning, Maya helped them take their medication with breakfast. "Remember, this medicine helps your body get rid of extra copper," she explained as she gave Zoe her pill. "I don't like how it tastes," Zoe complained. "I know, but it keeps you healthy. Let's try taking it with apple juice today." Richard watched from the doorway, admiring how Maya made the medical routine feel normal for the girls. He had rearranged his entire work schedule to be present for his daughters, delegating more responsibilities to his executive team. "Daddy, are you taking us to school today?" Chloe asked, noticing him in the doorway. "Yes, I am, and I'll pick you up this afternoon too," Richard promised. The girls had recently started kindergarten at a small private school nearby. As weeks turned into months, the new family settled into their life together. Maya started nursing classes at UCLA, driving to campus 3 days a week while Richard worked from home to care for the girls. On her school days, she still prepared their morning medication before leaving and returned in time for their afternoon doses. During her first exam period, Maya studied late into the night at her cottage. She was surprised when Richard knocked on her door at 11 o'clock, carrying 2 cups of tea. "Thought you might need this," he said, handing her a steaming mug. "Thank you." "I'm reviewing pediatric medication dosage calculations. It's been a while since I've taken exams." "How does it feel to be back in school?" Richard asked, sitting across from her at the small kitchen table. "Wonderful," Maya admitted. "I feel like I'm finally back on my path. The girls are so proud of you. Zoe told her teacher that you're going to be the best nurse in the whole world." Maya laughed. "That's a lot to live up to." The next afternoon, Maya received her exam results. She rushed from campus to the main house, excited to share her news. "I got an A!" she announced as she entered the kitchen where Richard was attempting to help the girls bake cookies. "Yay, Miss Maya!" Phoebe cheered, her hands covered in cookie dough. "We should celebrate," Richard declared. "Ice cream for everyone!" That evening, as they sat on the beach enjoying ice cream cones, Maya noticed how different the girls looked from those sickly children in the hospital 6 months earlier. Their cheeks were rosy, their eyes bright, and they had endless energy. Regular medication had transformed their lives. Dr. Keller said their liver function tests are completely normal now, Maya told Richard as they watched the triplets chase waves on the shore. "Because of you," Richard said quietly. "You saved them, Maya." 2 weeks later, Victoria arrived for her monthly supervised visit with the girls. After completing court-mandated therapy and parenting classes, she had been granted limited visitation rights. "The court supervisor will be here the entire time," Richard reminded Victoria as she entered the house. "I know the rules, Richard," Victoria replied coolly. She looked different, less perfectly styled, more natural. Therapy had begun to change her, though she remained distant with her ex-husband. Before the visit, Maya prepared the girls by explaining what would happen. "Your mommy is coming to spend 3 hours with you today," Maya told them. "She's looking forward to seeing you." "Will you stay too?" Zoe asked anxiously. "No, sweetie. This is special time just for you and your mommy, but I'll be in my cottage if you need anything, and your daddy will be in his office." After Victoria left, the girls told Maya about their visit while she prepared their evening medication. "Mommy seems different," Chloe observed. "She played games with us today." "She didn't get mad when I spilled my juice," Phoebe added with surprise. "People can learn and change," Maya explained gently. "Your mommy is learning new ways to be with you." As spring turned to summer, preparations began for the triplets' 6th birthday. The girls were excited to have their first real birthday party with friends from school. "Can we have a beach party?" Zoe asked at breakfast one morning. "With a real cake?" added Chloe. "And games?" Phoebe chimed in. "Yes to all of those things," Richard promised. "We'll make it special." The day before the party, Dr. Keller visited the Malibu house. He had become a friend to the family, checking on the girls' progress regularly. "They look wonderful," he told Richard and Maya as they sat on the deck watching the triplets play in the yard. "You've done an exceptional job managing their condition." "Maya deserves the credit," Richard said. "She keeps track of every medication, every test result, every symptom." "Actually, I have news to share with both of you," Dr. Keller said. "I've established a foundation for early detection of rare childhood diseases. We're calling it the Early Signs Foundation. It was inspired by this case, by Maya's persistence in recognizing symptoms everyone else missed." Maya looked surprised. "That's wonderful, Dr. Keller." "There's more," he continued. "I'd like you to join our advisory board once you complete your nursing degree, Maya. Your combination of observational skills and medical knowledge would be invaluable." "I'd be honored," Maya replied, deeply moved by the offer. The triplets' birthday party was held on a perfect summer day. 20 kindergarten classmates ran along the beach while parents chatted on the deck. Richard had arranged for child-friendly games and activities throughout the afternoon. Victoria arrived exactly at the agreed time, bringing 3 identical designer dresses as gifts. Though she remained somewhat stiff with the children, her efforts to connect were visible to everyone. "Thank you for inviting me," she said to Richard, her voice formal but sincere. "They wanted you here," Richard replied simply. As the afternoon progressed, the time came for cake and candles. Maya brought out a colorful birthday cake with 6 candles. "Make a wish," she told the triplets as they gathered around the cake. The 3 girls closed their eyes, thought for a moment, then blew out the candles together. The guests applauded. Later, as the party wound down and guests began to leave, Richard found Maya sitting alone on the beach steps. "Penny for your thoughts?" he asked, sitting beside her. "I was just thinking about how different things are now from that night at the gala," Maya replied. "The girls are healthy. They're happy. They're thriving." "Because of you," Richard said. "Because we all worked together for them," Maya corrected. They sat in comfortable silence, watching the sunset over the ocean. Richard's hand found Maya's between them. "When I first met you, I thought you were just another employee," Richard admitted. "I never saw past my own busy life to notice how special you are, how much you care, how fiercely you protect those girls." Maya turned to look at him. "And now I see you, Maya. I see your kindness, your intelligence, your strength." Richard's voice grew soft. "Somewhere along this journey, my feelings for you changed, became deeper." Maya smiled gently. "Mine too." From the house they heard the triplets calling for them. "Daddy! Miss Maya, come see what Grandma Ramirez brought us." Richard stood and offered Maya his hand. "Shall we?" As they walked back to the house hand in hand, the golden sunset light bathed the scene in warmth. Inside, 3 healthy little girls waited for them, surrounded by birthday gifts and love. "For so long I thought family was defined by DNA or legal documents," Richard said quietly, pausing before they entered the house. "But you've shown me it's really built one day at a time, through the courage to see the truth and the choice to act from love, no matter what it costs you." Maya squeezed his hand in response, and together they joined the celebration, stepping forward into their future as a family bound not by blood or tradition, but by something much stronger, the choice to love and protect each other, come what may. If you enjoyed today's video, I'm sure you'll love the next one. Don't waste time. Just click on the screen.